All right, thank you very much. Welcome back to Dose of Reality. I am pleased to have all of you here. I have a couple of guests today with us today. I want to use my platform to talk about the current situation in our state, as it started with peaceful protest that turned into violent and pandemic that is going on. We are at loss of so many Black lives. We have lost into police brutality, and we want justice for them and their family and our community. People are angry, devastated, and want justice to be served. Today, we have invited you all here, our community leader, once again. Welcome, Attorney General Keith Ellison.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And also, I have our counselor, City Councilor Simon Trotman, AK Commissioner of Park and Recreation, and Holden Hassan, our representative. Please welcome once again. Is everyone can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So I want to welcome you all, and I am honored that you guys are with us today. But what I want to do today, the reason why we are all here in this show, is I want to hear what your inputs are and what are the action you're planning on taking after all the demolition, everything that has been happening. What are your thoughts in this, Keith?
A few thoughts, and I'll just be brief. One is we got to get justice for Mr. Floyd. If we don't successfully obtain justice for Mr. Floyd, we will not be doing what everybody expects us to do to have a fair society. But it can't stop there. We got to move from there to having real police reform. And so we're going to continue the drive for police reform to make permanent systemic changes. And then we've got to rebuild and reinvest in communities that have been damaged. And we need people to mobilize. I mean, you know, as much as people may not want to talk about politics now, much of the problems we're facing come from politics. And some of the good things that happen are because of politics. Because we have, because of Jacob Fry, we have Arredondo. Because of Arredondo, those officers are fired. That wouldn't have happened if it was. And because of Bessie Hodges, we have a duty to intervene and a duty for police to have sanctity of life, which are reforms which went through under Hodges, but Frey used them as the basis to fire these officers because they did not intervene to render medical assistance, and they did not regard his life as important. So the politics is critical, and we need. And as you see, President Trump saying many crazy things, we need to think about how we're going to change that situation. So first, justice for Floyd. Second, police reform. Third, reinvest in communities, build them back better than before. So those are my 3 quick points.
Thank you so much, Attorney General Keith. Simon, what do you have to say in this situation at the moment as you are witnessing?
Well, thank you, Shukri, and thank you for just hosting this conversation. That's so critical. I'll keep my points brief to three also. And I serve not only as a council member in Richfield, but also as a small business attorney. And almost all the retail establishments that I have are owned by people of color, primarily Black and East African business owners. And so there is, in addition to the tragedy and the trauma that didn't begin and end with George Floyd, but just put an unforgettable face and trauma that we all experience vicariously, we're also experiencing the devastating destruction of countless Black-owned businesses because of the demonstrations. And so we're grateful for everything the mayor is doing and that the governor is doing, and to address those. But on a policy level for the city of Richfield, one of the first things that we did when I joined the council is we eliminated our civil service board, and we did that so that we could recruit more officers of color. So it starts there by having a force that reflects the community that we serve. There are 4 reforms that we're still working for, for example, as Attorney General Ellison, the BCA, when officers are investigated, they give a statement and then they review the dash cam footage or the body camera footage. In our city, that's not the case. Officers have the benefit of reviewing the footage and then giving their testimony. And so advocating for those kinds of reforms are ongoing. And additionally, we have to make a space, and we have to radically make more space where we can hear hard things from our community. And so that is clear in this moment, and that's clear before. And so just making that space and being available is what we need to do as well.
Thank you so much, Simon. All right, Hodan Hassan, what do you have to say into this situation?
Thank you for inviting me to this conversation. This is a very important conversation. My first thoughts go out to George Floyd and his family. What had happened to George Floyd was inhumane. It was brutal, and I condemn it to the strongest way that I can. Secondly, I also, my thoughts go out for the Black community that's hurting, the pain that we're seeing. The burning buildings that we see on Lake Street and in South Minneapolis is the tears of our community, our Black community, and fighting a system that has never worked for them, a system that for 400 years has been discriminating against Black community. I will be a bit cynical than the previous speakers and say that I don't think that the state's doing enough, and I don't think the city's doing enough. My community, the South Minneapolis community, who are Black and brown, were left to be burned to the ground in the last few nights. And that's heartbreaking. As much as I feel the pain and understand the rage of the people that are protesting, there is a difference between protesting and anarchists and people from other communities and out of the state of Minnesota to come and burn down a community that's predominantly Black and brown and burn down years of investment in businesses that are owned by Black and brown community. So I'm not very happy with the approach that the city has taken and the state has taken. I don't feel like that my community has been protected. But I want to say that to the young people who are protesting, we hear you, we see you. And as a state legislator, I promise to continue putting out legislation that holds the police accountable, that holds every system accountable, so Black men and women can, exist. What we're fighting for is existence. Our community is fighting for existence, and let us just exist. And that is really sad. If people actually think about it, an individual fighting for just existence, just to exist, is really sad. So I want people to not only see the destruction alone, because there is pain behind the destruction. I don't condone any, destruction of property. I don't condone Black and brown businesses burned to the ground. But I will say that I understand where the rage is coming from. So we were due for justice yesterday, and we're due for, police accountability 2 decades and 2 centuries ago. So I will work with my, colleagues at the state legislature, with the state leadership, the governor, the attorney general, to continue to put in places legislation and policies that hold the police accountable.
Thank you so much, Hodan. That is really appreciated. AK Hassan, Commissioner AK, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
All right. Yes, go ahead and tell us.
Thank you so much for having me, Shukri, and thanks to all the leaders that are on the show with me. First of all, I think we need to charge all the 4 officers that are involved, or all the officers that are involved. The killing of unarmed, our brother, late George Floyd. He doesn't deserve this, and our community doesn't deserve this. That's one, and I stand with all in solidarity with everyone that's out there. And as we're speaking right now, I'm out on Lake Street helping out local businesses. Benadir Pharmacy is one of the pharmacies that the Horn Towers on Lake and Gloucester were even had their medicines ready to be picked up the next day, but they took everything away from them. I want to say this, you guys stole a lot from us, our community, and we're struggling right now. We have to go, out to get our food, and those people don't represent us. I know I stand with and the family of George Floyd and everyone that's mourning, but this needs to stop. I think you're taking a lot from this community, and it's gonna take us a while to get it. The Wells Fargo is done. The rent is due for some of the elders that can't drive, that doesn't have public transit. So, and I want to thank all the leaders who are doing great out there. Our Attorney General Keith Elson, who's been out there just recently urging people to stay home, and our mayor, they're all doing their best, but we have to listen. And I ask everyone that's out there to also encourage others and tell them to stay home.
Thank you, AK. My next question will be, would you all say that this riot has sent a message to the other state that enough is enough? And we Minnesotans have taken this serious for the change, and the human rights are inherent to all human beings. Due to the anger that people are showing this, that means that enough is enough. Would you agree with me on this? Attorney General?
This is Keith Shukri. I would say you're right. Yeah, Shukri, I would say that all of the demonstrations, all of the energy, all of the righteous anger is a clear demonstration that people have had enough and are demanding reform and equal justice. I would also say that we've got to be careful, because what has happened is that white supremacists, right-wing extremists are infiltrating our righteous protests and destroying things. And what they're trying to do is make the general public think that the protesters are just rioters. And so that's not true. The fact is, every person arrested in St. Paul was not even from Minnesota. And a lot of this destruction that happened in North Minneapolis was nowhere near the protest. So these negative people are trying to divert and derail the righteous anger that you're asking us about right now. So I would say that you're absolutely right. This protest is a sign that permanent reform must happen now. But we've also got to be careful to protect our movement and not let the right-wing extremists tarnish the reputation of our righteous struggle.
Correct. All right. Thank you so much. Simon, what do you have to say on that note?
I agree with Attorney General Ellison and what Representative Hassan said, that I mean, obviously the anger is righteous. It's righteous, and it's not created by the death of George Floyd, but it's revealed by his death, by his senseless death. And so yes, but as Attorney General said, I was not surprised, because we all saw who was in that crowd. We saw so many of the people that were rioting and burning things, and they're not from the neighborhood, and that is a co-opting. It is a perversion. It is a wholly undermining, malign influence in the righteous anger and the righteous frustration. And so being able to distinguish those and say, yes, this not only do we need to make space for that, but we need to receive and respond and change our practices. But we have to protect our communities, especially community Black-owned businesses. We have to protect them. They have to be here at the end of this. We have to build it back.
Thank you, Simon. Just to add a little bit before I ask Hodan and Hassan on their thoughts, what I was concerned is like we are angry, we are disappointed, we are devastated on the situation that is happening. What made me believe that this was not the peaceful protest? It was a peaceful protest until when the businesses started being demolished. Is because why will a black person get so disappointed and break their own businesses? That did not make sense to me. So I will go for Hodan Hassan and tell us a little bit what do you think about this situation?
So, yes, people had enough.
Yes.
People are fed up. People are disappointed. People are hurt. They're in pain. All of those are true. But what also is true is that there are infiltrators not from our community who are trying to make this about destruction and demolishing and looting and destroying black and brown owned businesses. So we need to separate the two. Young people who are upset, who are taking their anger to the streets, that's a wonderful thing. We should all promote that. People protest. It's their constitutional right. It's in their First Amendment. At the same time, you have people like the Attorney General said, most people that were arrested in St. Paul were not even from Minnesota. So people are just coming here to cause trouble, to burn down. And anybody who's from South Minneapolis understands the importance of Lake Street for the black and brown community, because all the businesses that are on Lake Street are owned by black and brown people and indigenous people. So yes, people are fed up. Yes, people are tired of the system. They just want to dismantle it. They just cannot, watch another day of police brutality or another life taken brutally by the police's hand. But at the same time, the people that are destroying, that are burning buildings, that are, demolishing our city, that are out there are not from our community. They are not from our state, and they are not welcome to burn down our neighborhoods. I live in the midst of all of this. I live in South Minneapolis, and the last few nights have been nothing but a heartache for me to just watch my neighborhood burn down to the ground. So I'm telling young people who are frustrated, who really care about George Floyd and want justice, to not get mixed up with the people who are infiltrators, who are trying to destroy our community. And they are not for justice. Those people are not for justice. They just want to, burn down black and brown communities.
That's true.
And we are not going to stand for that.
They're trying to make us look bad. Okay. Hassan, what would you add on to that?
Well, I agree with Representative Hodan and Representative Keith Ellison, Attorney General. Destroying minority black-owned businesses, local small businesses, is not the solution. The real solution is a community police reform. That needs to happen now. We're tired of it. We're fed of it. I think it's time that our leaders step up. And I think we headed to the right direction. But I'm calling everyone, please let us protect our businesses, our local businesses, our communities, because we can't take it anymore. This is not okay. And it needs to stop now.
All right. Thank you, Hassan. This question is a bit different, and then maybe it will be difficult to answer. And this question goes to the Attorney General Keith Ellison. Why do you think that people of Minnesota had to stand up together and demolish the city for just their voice to be heard, for a citizen arrest?
Well, I think that I will tell you this, and I don't think anybody's going to appreciate what I'm saying, but please trust me as a lawyer of 30 years who has both prosecuted police civilly and now and defended a lot of people who've been charged with crimes. Prosecuting a police officer is not an easy thing to do. Let me just remind you, when the officers were prosecuted for murder of Walter Scott in South Carolina, they were acquitted. We didn't even get an indictment on the guys who killed Mike Brown. I can tell you that the officers And if you talk about quasi police like Zimmerman, he walked away from Trayvon Martin.
Yes.
The fact is that the jury is going to be made up of a lot of white suburban upper class people who don't live through police brutality. And so you've got to be very careful to put these cases together. They take a while. And so I know everybody said, charge him, charge him, charge him. And I would have charged him much sooner than even Mike did. But there's never been a police officer charged this quickly after a shooting incident. Now, you all will say, well, wait a minute. If I did this, they'd have me in jail that day. And you're right. But in this society, the law says that police officers are authorized to use force unless it's unreasonable force. And so, I'm just saying, constructing this case takes longer. I will say that it's a good thing that this guy was charged. The other officers need to be charged too, and these people need to be brought to justice. And I will tell you honestly, if it had not been for the community raising its voice, demanding justice, it's unlikely that they would have been charged. This guy would have been charged this soon.
Correct.
But I want you to know that even though Mike Freeman has suffered criticism, and this is the fastest I've ever seen a police officer get charged. And what we're doing is not going to be an easy thing. So I say, keep up the pressure. Don't take no for an answer, but also please know, particularly as leaders, that prosecuting a police officer for murder is not an easy thing to do. It doesn't happen every day. And if you look at the history, mostly what happens is that they get away with it. And so the fact that this cop is charged, no grand jury, I hope people understand that represents progress over the course of years, many years. People saying, you're not going to whitewash this thing with a grand jury. We want these people charged right away. That represents not just this protest, but many, many others that happened in years ago that have brought us to the point where we're finally getting closer to justice. So ask me anything you'd like to about this, because I know you might have questions.
Well, what the question came on in regards of our previous.
Because it represents the success of our struggle for equality and police accountability.
If General Keith Ellison, if I recall, Police Mahmoud Noor, his quick arrest was done. Was that a different case from this one?
Yeah, but let me ask you this:
correct.
Before Mahmoud Noor, which was a shooting right on the scene,
right.
Before that, there was plenty of shootings by the police, many of them, and they were not immediately arrested. The fact is, what you're seeing now, is the culmination of literally 20 years of protests, right? The fact that they didn't try to use a grand jury, the normal course of action is for them to convene a grand jury, which is secret, and then put it in front of the grand jury, and then the grand jury says, well, there's no bill of indictment, no indictment. And that's the way it normally happens. What I'm giving you is a lot of history right now.
Correct.
And if you all have been watching this for as long as I have, you will know that I'm telling you the truth.
That's true.
But Mahmoud Noor was different in many ways. One, it was a black officer and a white woman. And so that was different. In this case, the system must prove that it will prosecute a white officer for killing a black person, which it has not done yet.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, I'm not asking you to be happy. I'm just saying that, trust me, if you look around the country and you look around all the cases, this is a mark of progress. When have you seen these officers fired within literally a day of killing a black person? You haven't seen that before.
Yeah.
So again, I'm asking you for something that's not easy to take. I'm asking you to understand that if this was 25 years ago, we wouldn't be in this situation. People in the streets all these years the lawsuits, the effort, the fighting is what brought us to this point. Don't let up now, but understand that this represents progress. I know you're not satisfied. I don't want you to be satisfied, but please have that 20-year history in mind when you think about this case.
Okay. Thank you, Kate Ellison. I appreciate your understanding on this question and making it very simple and easy to understand. Simon, what do you have to say on that note?
Yeah, and your question is why it takes this level of righteous anger, and I think certainly Mayor Jacob Frey, he's had a lot of criticism in the last couple of days. I think what he said was so spot on when he made the decision to call for the immediate arrest, and he said there are so many generations of traditions and institutions and incredible pressures to do nothing. And as he made a choice to say, I'm going to set those aside and I'm going to call for these arrests, he made an active choice to disrupt those institutions, to disrupt those boundaries, and that's the work that we need to do.
Thank you, Simon. I appreciate that. Hodan Hassan, what do you have to say on that?
I agree with Keith Ellison. I know it's a little progress, but it's a progress. It took so many years and so many people speaking up and fighting for justice to have the police officer, one of the police officers, arrested. And I know change takes time and change is uncomfortable, but I want people to understand this is a win for our community. This is a win for the people that have spent decades being on the street and fighting for justice. So yes, it has to take an uprising for the police officer to be put behind bars, but that's what it takes. We need to put pressure on. And the case for Mohammed Noor and that he shot a white woman, he also shot an affluent woman. So there were a lot of factors that speeded up that case that aren't the same for George Floyd. But for the first time, I think, well, at least for the time that I've lived in Minnesota, this is the first time I have seen a police officer, a white police officer who shot a black man being arrested, fired right away and being arrested within a matter of days. So this is a progress, but we're not fully there where we need to be. And I don't want people to feel comfortable and just say that, yes, this is a progress, so we won. No, we haven't won. We need all the police officers behind bars, we need them charged, and we need to continue the fight for justice and against injustice.
Okay, thank you, Hodan Hassan. Commissioner Hassan, AK? Commissioner AK Hassan, are you there?
Yes, I agree with what Attorney General Hassan said. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, I think we're one step forward. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and I'm looking forward to work with our leaders.
All right. Thank you, AK Hassan. I appreciate that. And just before I let everyone go, and that I'm really thankful, would you consider this situation we're in right now that has captured our past history on decades, that history has repeated itself in a situation that we are in?
Well, Shukri, history never really repeats itself, but it does rhyme, meaning it looks the same, but it's always a little different. The fact is that the community rose up. Minneapolis inspired the whole country. There's protests about the Floyd case all over this country. I think somebody told me there was some protesting going on in the UK, even in London. So people are really upset about this, and they're not going to stop until we get justice. But then we just can't stop. Just like Hodan said, we gotta commit ourselves to permanent change. And Hodan and Mahmoud Noor and Bobby Champion and Raina Moran and all them, we and our white allies, we need to be able to make some permanent change in the state legislature. And Simon Trotman at the municipal level, our municipal leaders, our city leaders, they're committed to change. And I think that, we're going to get there. But what we got to do is promise each other that none of us are ever going to quit for fighting for a fairer, better world. And with that, I must apologize and excuse myself. I got to go take care of a little business, but I have to say I'm so committed to you guys. I'm so proud to be friends of yours and allies with you. And thank you so much, Shukri, for having this very important program.
Yeah, thank you so much, Keith Ellison, for joining us. We appreciate your timing. I will go ahead and let you go and continue with the rest of the other leaders. Thank you. Have a great evening. Simon, would you be able to answer that question?
Sure. And I think two things. One, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be in this space and just recognizing that this is not just a Black conversation. It's not only Black anger, that we're all angered, and it's not just incumbent on legislators of color, but all of us to make this a priority. And so it's something that lives deep in my heart, in our community's heart, and we see that in the people that are out demonstrating. And that's not the folks that are from out of state, but for all of us here that all think enough is enough and all want change. And so we're grateful for that opportunity, even in the midst of just incredible grief, not just for the death, but for the violence that's being brought throughout the community.
Thank you, Councillor Simon. Hodan Hassan, would you add up to that?
Yeah. So it feels like history is repeating itself, because we have seen way too many times a Black man gunned down by a police officer and the police officer walks away. I am hoping that this time it's different. It's different because for the first time, we have, the police officer, well, at least in Minnesota, the police officer is in jail. And we're hoping the other ones will be arrested soon. And the community and the uprising and the protests, all of that adds up pressure to leadership to just show that people are not going to take this lightly. And people are just tired of, Black men are tired of police brutality. Black community is tired of police brutality. And as a state legislator, as someone who has the power to create policies and change laws, I and other Black legislators and our white allies are going to go into a special session on June 12th and try to write some policies that will hold the police accountable, policies that will work in the benefit of the safety and the well-being of the Black community. And hopefully, history will look upon this moment and people will say, this is the moment that this has changed. I'm hoping that, 20 years, 30 years from now, people will look back and say that the murder of George Floyd is what changed police, brutality and what stopped the injustices that Black men are faced. So, yes, in some sense, history is repeating itself, but no, I would say that because we're hoping the outcome will be different.
Thank you so much, Rep. Hodan Hassan. We'll go for Commissioner A.K. Hassan.
Thank you again. I'm glad. Can you hear me? I'm having some problems with reception here.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, good. Well, yeah, no, thanks for having me. I'm still hopping out with the community right now on Megan Blaisdell. It's always good to be on your program. I think you're doing great work. We should continue. And I'm going to add one more point here, which is our communities are attacked. I know this is not about George Floyd anymore. It's about them, these people that are not grieving with us, that they're not mourning with us, that are destroying our businesses. And that needs to stop. I mean, I'm asking our community to come out to protect our properties, our homes, our groceries, and support our local minority-owned businesses.
I just wanted to take time and thank everyone that are doing their part as community leaders. This show and this platform was meant for the community to hear your voice, and also the Black people to understand that we are with them. We are supporting them. We are always going to be with them, and this is not only for them, it's for everyone, and this is the right for everybody to do as much as they can. It takes much to be out there. It hasn't been that easy. It's a bit scary, but we all have to stand together to make a change. And for AK and the other community leaders who are working together by cleaning the businesses, by supporting the community, we are really thankful for that. We appreciate your work. Simon, for joining us in today, taking your time and making sure that your voice is heard and that you're concerned about the situation and the safety of the community. I really appreciate your time in this day, which is Saturday, and there's chaos still going on. So I thank you so much. Is there anything else anyone would like to add onto this before I close?
Shukri, I want to add one more thing. I want to say to the young people in our community that are frustrated, that are really upset and hurting, that we hear you, we see you, and we are glad to stand with you. But please stay home tonight. Please, at 8 p.m., don't come out. Spend all your energy on something other than being on the streets, because there is too much chaos going on. There are anarchists, there are white supremacists who are coming just to tear down our community, and we don't want our young people to be caught up in the middle of that. So please, I'm pleading with you, stay home tonight. Don't come and roam the streets of Minneapolis, in South Minneapolis, because there will be National Guard, there will be state troopers, there will be force, and we don't want you to be caught up in that. And then one more thing for our community, please come out and help out cleaning up on Lake Street. Lake Street needs you. All the businesses on Lake Street have been run down. We have, my staff and other community members have spent all day long cleaning up, talking to businesses, calming down the community. There's a lot of fear on Lake Street. So having more community members come out and help and showing up will help ease the tension as well. But it's before 8 p.m. After 8 p.m., everyone should stay home.
Okay. Is the curfew still going on, and how long will it be going on for?
Well, Shukri, what was that? I didn't hear the question.
Will the curfew still be going on, and how long will it be going on for?
Well, the curfew is on 8 p.m. tonight, and it's on Sunday night at 8 p.m. So, I mean, it's an executive order from the governor, so we will see if they extend it. But the idea behind it is that to make sure that, because it's a weekend, that not everyone is out there trying to, cause chaos. And there, Keith Ellison said this at best. Most people that were arrested last night are not from Minnesota, so that tells you that it's not our community that's destroying our neighborhoods. It's people from outside, people from other states, people from other spaces are the ones that are trashing, burning down, destroying our community. So we want to make sure that the state can deal with the bad people that are trying to destroy things, but we want to make sure that our young people stay home so they're not caught up in the mix of all of this.
Okay, thank you so much, Rep. Simon, City Councilor Simon, what would you say on that?
I think I would echo everything that Representative Hassan had to say, and I would add at the city level, and we'd love to partner at the state level. And and I know that I believe Representative Hassan is supportive of this too. There's something called the Officer Integrity Act, and in Richfield we had an officer that had been serially involved in use of force claims and failing to document when he used use of force claims, and we terminated that officer, and they appealed it, and we appealed it to the appellate court and the Supreme Court, and we ultimately lost. And because the state did not find it a compelling interest that, and we didn't have the authority to remove that officer. And so the Officer Accountability Act is a great blessing to excellent law enforcement officers. But it says if you violate that trust, if you violate that integrity, then it gives cities and state agencies the tools that they need to be able to make those decisions.
Okay, thank you so much, Simon. I really appreciate that. Does anybody have to add any last message for the community? Anyone?
Well, I'm gonna add one more thing.
Yes.
I want to thank you and Councilmember Simon, Representative Hodan, and Representative Attorney General Keith Elson, who left. You're doing a great job. Keep it up, and please, everyone, stay home. And if we have to protect our groceries, our halals, we have to do it.
Thank
Because
you.
these people are not from me, as Representative Hodan said, and everyone.
Thank you.
Please stay home and let's protect each other.
Okay. Thank you so much, Hassan. Rep Hodan.
Well, I mean, I want to thank everyone. I want to thank you, Shukri, for this important conversation.
Thank you.
You continue to amaze us with the way that you continuously show up for our community and have very important conversations. I want to thank Keith Ellison for the amazing work that he's doing. I want to thank Council Member Simon, who is a great friend of the Somali community. He's practically Somali by now. And our young commissioner, A.K. Hassan, who has been out on the streets of Lake Street, has been cleaning for the last few days. Thank you, A.K., for doing that. This is the time we stand together. This is the time we need to unify our voices and draw from each other's strengths. Our community needs us. Our Black community needs us. Our brown community needs us. Our allies need to know that we appreciate them and we are happy that they're standing with us. And our leadership needs to hear from us, and they're hearing from us, and that's great.
Yes.
While we can always change laws and we can always fight for justice, we also want to make sure that our young people are protected. And the only way we can protect them is if they stay home and not get caught up in the mix of something anarchists and white supremacists are trying to do. Please stay home. That would be the safest thing for you to do tonight at 8 p.m. is to stay home.
All right. Thank you so much, Rep Hassan. I am thankful for the Attorney General that had joined us earlier. I'm sure he was very busy that he had to leave us. And I am thankful to City Councilor of Richfield, Simon Tratman, and Commissioner A.K. Hassan for Park and Recreation, and Representative Hodan Hassan. Your time is very valuable, and I am honored that you guys were part of this and to just send a voice out there. Thank you so much, and stay tuned for Dose of Reality for more coming next weekend. I appreciate you all, and you have a great evening, and remember to stay home. It's not safe out there, and the curfew starts at 8 p.m. until 6 a.m. in the morning. I will see you guys next Saturday. Have a great day.